Hi and welcome to Ion Radio. I'm Ken.
I'm John.
And we're going to take a look in this video at the Galactic Republic Fighter Squadron. So there's 8 squadrons in here, bunch of cards, so let's go take a look. Alright, here is the Republic Fighter Squadrons pack. Got the whole thing in my hand. I've already pre-cut the side of the box here. Let's see what we get in the box. We've got a bunch of tokens, we'll look at those later. And as usual, we got our pamphlet and all our squadrons. So let's take a look at what we have. So here is what we have in the Armada Republic Fighter Squadrons. We have the normal pamphlet, includes the complete component list, so you guys can see it real quick in case you're curious. And we have a bunch of brand new rules here, and John and I will talk to you about those in just a second. Let's take a look at the cardboard. So with our cardboard, we've got our normal assortment of squadron dials and our activation tokens along with the aces on the back, and we have that for both sets of squadrons. We also have our normal assortment of tokens, which includes our identifiers and additional aces. Let's go take a look at the cards themselves. We're going to get you some close-ups of those along with all the squadrons themselves. So, John, let's start with the V-19 torrents. We saw these in the Galactic Republic starter box. No difference other than the fact that we've got a different ace here. So it's still an X-Wing-esque.
So to me, this really reminds me of a combination of an X-Wing and a TIE fighter with its abilities.
Yeah, you get the escort and the swarm.
Yes. So let's take a look at the first ace.
Kickback.
Kickback. He is in his V-19 torrent. His special ability is after you perform an attack, you may move up to distance 1 even if you are engaged. So in essence, they gave him cloaking right after attack.
Right after an attack.
And he is pretty much the same as the standard one, yep, except he has 2 braces and he costs 16 points. Right. I actually really like that. You can do like a hidden fade attack.
It's kind of neat. I like that. There's a couple things like this we'll see in some of these others squadrons that we'll get to, and I think all of them are just going to be a lot of fun. So speaking of fun, we've got the Delta 7 Aether Sprite Squadron. So these are the Jedi fighters, more or less. Comes with Adept II, which allows you to re-roll 1 die. Counter 2, which is counter. And then Dodge 1, which is a new keyword for squadrons. While you're defending against a squadron during the spend defense tokens step, you may choose 1 die to be re-rolled. So it's almost like having a mini evade of sorts.
Built in that it's not accurate. You can't accuracy it.
Correct.
It's just a defense. This card is very powerful for 17 points. It has then the 3 blue and a black dice for its anti-squadron, and it has a blue dice for its anti-ship. And because the Adept 1 does not specify ship or squadron, even attacking a ship, it gets the reroll, which greatly increases the amount of damage that it can do against a ship. It's a very powerful card.
So now we actually get to the unique pilots. We'll start out with Ahsoka Tano.
Ahsoka Tano, she is the same basic stat line as the basic Delta 7. Her ability is after you move, you may choose another friendly squadron at distance 1. That squadron performs an attack against an enemy squadron at distance 1 with an anti-squadron armament of 2 blue dice, even if it has already activated.
That's powerful.
Yeah, so she can make another squadron attack.
Yes.
So she has a Gendon ability, but doesn't get the full attack. It's a partial attack and still can attack herself.
Right, yeah. So she can, you activate her with squadron command, move her to where she needs to be. She'll have like an Arc 170 or something, make a couple shots, and then bam, she gets to shoot a second time. She also has grit, it's worth pointing out.
Yes, so grit is important because now with the intel change, which we'll talk about in a second, I see her as being a fighter that skirts the outskirts of a battle. Goes in, activates a squadron, and kind of just flies around and just picks her targets specifically. She also has Adept 1 and Counter 2. She has a scatter and a brace and is pretty expensive at 23
A
points.
lot of these Jedi squadrons are expensive. Speaking of Jedis, Luminara Unduli. So her special ability is while an enemy squadron at distance 1 is attacking a non-unique friendly squadron, the attack is treated as obstructed. So again, Adept 1 being a Jedi and then counter 2, 23 points. This is kind of interesting from the perspective of being able to protect your generic squadrons. And you're able to essentially reduce the amount of damage by obstructing their shots. I guess it's some kind of fun force power, manner of speaking.
But that kind of is very along the lines of what we see in the Clone Wars with the Jedi protecting their clones. Well, some of the Jedi protecting their clones. The good Jedi protecting their clones. And she also costs 23 points. So right there is half a fighter list.
Right.
If you bring 2 Jedi. We actually get a lot of Jedi cards in this.
We really do. I was surprised. It's 11 total upgrade cards and only 8 squadrons. So pick a second one of these up.
What? They're making you buy more cards? How horrible. So our next Jedi is Kit Fisto. His ability is when you spend a defense token, you may discard it. If you do, reduce the total damage by 3 instead of resolving the token's effect. Wow.
Yeah, those 2 brace tokens, I think, are going to become much more powerful, especially when you only have 1 or 2 health left, and the brace doesn't really do much for you. Now you can dump it to prevent you from taking 3 damage.
Every time I use it, I'm going to do a cheeky smile like he has in this picture. He actually is Adept II, so he's going to be able to reroll 2 dice. He has counter, and then he has intel. So let's talk real fast about the new intel. Intel before gave all enemy fighters at distance 1 of you heavy, which allowed you to move past them and to attack ships. Now intel gives your friendly squadrons at distance 1 grit, which does not allow them to fly past 2 squadrons, and it also does not allow them to bypass enemy fighters to attack ships. So it's changed, I think, for the better, because now fighter screens actually matter.
They work.
And he hands it out to fighters, so this is the way they do it. To note, he has 2 braces instead of a scatter like the other Jedi.
So speaking of other Jedis, here's Plo Koon. So his text reads, non-unique, friendly squadrons without counter at distance 1 will gain counter 1. So this is not too dissimilar from Dengar in terms of passing the counter out. Again, he's a Jedi Master, so Adept 2 and counter 2, your token suite of a brace and a scatter, and 24 points.
Now we move on to BTLB YWing Squadrons. So this is what the YWing Squadrons originally looked like before they were stripped down, which is the ones that the Rebels got. It is very similar to it. It costs 10 points, it moves 3, it has 6 hull. Where it's different is the anti-squadron armament of it is a blue and a black dice compared to 2 blues of the Rebel ones. I think this is to simulate that the Clone ones had manned gunners for its turrets compared to the Rebels, which had automated turrets. It's still a Y-Wing. It's still a black bomber. Still amazing.
Speaking of amazing, we get Anakin Skywalker, also in the BTLB Y-Wing. His ability is during your activation, you may spend 1 defense token to ignore engagement until the end of your activation. That's kind of cool because you can just get out of a bad jam if you're surrounded by tons of droid fighters. And actually, in theory, you could just jump right next to a ship and shoot at it then, couldn't you?
Correct.
So Adept 2 and then the Y-Wing Bomber and Heavy as well with it.
Okay. He actually costs less than the other Jedis at 19 points. But his dice change for this fighter compared to a normal bomber. He gets 3 blue dice for anti-squadron. He has 2 dice for anti-ship. He has a red and a blue, which goes well with the fact that he's Adept II and will have the ability to re-roll both of them. Moving on now to the ARC 170 Starfighter Squadron. This is a very cool looking squadron, and it costs 15 points. It's extremely slow. It moves 2. It has 7 hull. Its anti-squadron is a red and 2 blue, and then anti-ship is 2 blue. It is a bomber, and it has counter 1. This is like a beefy or just as slow B-wing.
Yeah.
So I'll be excited to see how this actually plays out with them, because they can kind of handle their own for anti-squadron, and then if you haven't killed them, they're really going to bomb you hard.
Yeah. Plus, with the counter, it's just going to be tough to take them down. We do have one ace with the ARC 170s, and that's Oddball. And for 23 points, he will give you the following ability. While attacking, if you moved during this activation, you may re-roll up to 2 dice. So you kind of want to keep him out of the fight, bring him in, and then roll your dice and potentially get 2 more, whether you're going up against the ship or a squadron ball. Bomber and counter 1 are in there. You get the evade token, again, which is kind of neat to see on squadrons, and then the brace. All right, so here we go. There is our ideas and thoughts on all of the Republic, almost said Rebellion, the Republic fighter squadrons. A lot of Jedi, a lot of high point squadrons, John.
Yes, and with the new limitations to squadrons, you only can bring 1 ace or a squadron that has defense tokens per 100 points of total build play area. So in a standard 400 game, you can bring 4 aces. You have a lot of choices with all those Jedis of how you want to build your fighter group to specialize it.
Yeah.
And I think that's really cool.
I think one of the points, though, with the Jedi is it almost seems like you want to bring generic squadrons to go along with them. So they're built in such a way where you probably don't want to bring more than 4 of them anyways. You can't, but even if you wanted to, you kind of want to bring like 2 or 3, and then a whole bunch of generic squadrons to kind of work with those abilities that they have.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So comment below, how are you going to paint up your squadrons? Because I know Ken and I are going to be painting them. And then you can find all of our social media below, and come chat us about us with all the new squadrons.
All right, so until we see you next time, I'm Ken.
I'm John.
You've been watching Ion Radio.